Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 170. We are joined today by a fantastic guest. And if you've listened to last week's episode, I think I might have mentioned it on last week's episode. We were nearly joined by this guest last week because there was a little it was a little bit of a confusion around scheduling, but we have him with us this week. So I will introduce you to our fantastic guest, who is our very first guest in 170 episodes from South Africa. So that's a big one. Our very first guest from South Africa, episode 170. So I'll introduce you to him in a minute. First of all, we'll just check in with the usual hosts. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. I put something out the other day. I had a great thing this week. Not me, the dog. I took him to get his booster injections at the vet, and he hasn't been for 2 years because I forgot last year. And he's put on 2 kilos, right? He's gone from 14.6 to 16.6, but he's not a fat dog or anything like that. So I think I've got kettlebells in the living room. I think he's been lifting them overnight while we've been asleep. But 2 kilos of solid, that's like 2 kilos of solid muscle. And I was like, what is it? 14% of his body weight. So I need to put on 10 kilos if that's the case, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I'm so proud of him. And he doesn't follow a training plan. He doesn't worry about food. He doesn't do all of that. He just gets on with life, and he's done it. So there you go. It's that easy.
I think you said though, he's out. He walks every day, eats healthily. Exercises, plays. All the kind of good things. So
yeah.
No.
So there you go. There's a lesson for everyone. That's all you need to do.
And Mr. Paul Bassett in London. How are you doing, Paul?
He does eat the Ronnie Coleman branded dog food there, doesn't he?
Obviously, yeah. There's loads of steroids and everything in there, yeah. All sorts. Not saying that Ronnie Coleman ever did any of that. I don't know.
Of course he did. That's accepted and widely out there. Paul, you seem to be having a crystal clear Wi-Fi moment or day. This is fantastic. How are you doing? You okay?
But you're disappointed when you actually see me in some kind of high def, aren't you?
You are.
You're giving off a sort of Liam Gallagher type of vibe at the minute.
Shine.
Except for the hair.
You're very clear picture and you're very clear audio. So long may that continue.
That's right, our kid.
Good. Okay. Anyway, we are joined today.
Now then.
We are joined today by Mr. Shaun Cairns. How are you doing, Shaun?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. How are you guys?
We are very, very good, and we're really glad to have you on. So just for those who don't know or who are maybe not involved in the Strong First community and hardstyle kettlebells and things, Shaun is a Master SFG under Strong First. He's the original Beast Tamer, which I'm sure we'll kind of maybe talk about and discuss a little bit on the podcast. He is, I know, a huge rugby fan, because while we were going through the SFG in October, we had the World Cup. The Rugby World Cup was on, so we were kind of in the bar each evening watching the rugby games. And while I think during the game that England lost to South Africa, I think I messaged him and I got a message back as well. He was watching that. He's a huge rugby fan, so he's very happy, obviously, with the recent World Cup. So yeah, Shaun, I mean, thank you so much for joining us. I think we said Pete assisted under you in 2019 at the SFG. Oh. I just assisted with you just, a month ago or whatever it was in Lilleshall in England at the SFG. And I did the SFG with you, I think back in 2017 when Zar Horton was over with you as well. You're a huge part of Strong First. You're a huge man, character, and you bring so much to all of the kind of certifications that you teach and what you do. But I thought this would be a really, really good opportunity to maybe get to know you a bit more, get to know the the man behind the sort of the certifications and the Beast Tamer and all the rest of it, and just to kind of find out a bit about you. Like I say, you're our very first guest from South Africa, so yeah, it's lovely to have you with us. So Shaun, I suppose to begin with, do you want to tell us a little bit, or maybe a little bit about your background, I suppose, in sport and in training and in lifting, and then getting involved with kettlebells and that sort of thing, and maybe we can dip in with questions as and when they come up, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So school in South Africa, there's a big part of school in South Africa is sport. And when I was growing up, you could only get out of rugby training, playing rugby at school, if you had a doctor's note. If you had a note from your mommy to say, I don't want little Johnny to play rugby because he's going to get himself hurt, the teachers would just tear the note up and tell him, go play. You need to bring a doctor's note. So yeah, early sport was rugby, and then swimming. So I was a competitive swimmer as well, and then when I finished with school, I started lifting some weights. We did a little bit for swimming. So we'd go to coach's house on a Saturday morning, and we'd do a little bit like bands and a little bit of weights and Jane Fonda's fitness workout video, which I would like stand at the back and I'd go like left, right. And by the time I just got used to, she'd change it and do something else. And yeah, it was, yeah. And then we'd do like a 10K run to the pool and then like a 10K swim. And that would be the Saturday done. So, yeah, I did lift some weights then, but really only started in my final year of school and then after school. And when I went to university, so started lifting some weights. Because we lived quite far away from anywhere where there's a gym, I had either trained at the university or I had trained at home. So I bought some weights at home and I built up my own little gym, and yeah, just enjoyed training, and yeah, got bigger and was no longer that competitive swimming. I'd kind of put on 30 kilos of what I'd like to call muscle. But I was still at 12% body fat, so it was mainly muscle. Was mainly muscle. Yeah, and then just carried on training. That was late 80s, going into the 90s, and eventually I got myself a big enough house that my mom and dad shipped all my weights up to me and said that I can keep it, get it out of their house, and I set up. So when I was living in Johannesburg at the time, and met my wife and got married, and I played club rugby at that stage and really enjoyed my club rugby, and needed some competitive outlet. It's one thing training and getting strong, but when you train and get strong in order to do something, it just makes it wow. Just everything just falls into place. So yeah, and having a little bit of a competitive outlet helps. I think too many people sit in the gym and their competitive outlet is to try and outlift the guy next to them, and that 9 out of 10 times does not end well. So yeah, so yeah, I had on and off training through those days, and then the children came along. This is what happens. You get married, and the children come, and we had 4 children in 5 years. So
Okay.
yeah, so when the 4th child was born, the 2nd child wasn't 3 yet.
Is that possible? I'm trying to do the math.
Just about. Yeah.
You can do the maths. It's not too difficult. It actually works out quite well. It has now, because now the youngest is 20, and they're like 20 to 25, so they're all really good friends and get on, and they have their own little WhatsApp groups that we're not even involved in. We don't even know what goes on there, which is probably how it's supposed to be. But yeah, having 4 little children, it was difficult to be able to say, okay, I'm going to go and train, because it was 20 minutes to drive to the gym, and and then you train for your hour or so, and then it's another 20 minutes. So let's say it's a 2-hour excursion. Even if you drop that training to say half an hour, 40 minutes, still an hour and a half of being out of the house. And then for my wife also to go, so we built a gym at home, and we had the space, and I had my old weights, and we set it all up, and it was great. So really enjoyed it. You could get up in the morning, kids would be sleeping, could go do your training before 6 o'clock. You back up, then the kids start waking up, and then you get them off and start sorting them out and to school and wherever they need to go, and then you go to work. And that was great. And at the time I was working for corporate. I worked for one of the big banks in South Africa in the IT division, and then left that to go work in a small business with a friend of mine, to head up the IT side, and then got into my own business. And all through that time I was training at home, but there was something kind of missing. There was that athletic part of strength that was missing in what I was doing. And I found this little advert in the Men's Health South Africa for kettlebells. So 2003, I ordered myself 8, 12, and a 16, and Pavel Satsulin's seminal book, The Russian Kettlebell Challenge, together with VHS video from Russia with Tough Love, which is supposed to be like the one for the ladies and that, but that was the only video available. And back then, YouTube they had nothing about kettlebells on YouTube.
Because they have some of those the old Pavel videos on Amazon now, on Amazon Prime. You can find them on there. Some of the really early ones, they're just on there to watch, which is great. I was going to say, Shaun, when did you stop playing club rugby then? Was that as soon as the children started to come along, you kind of stopped playing the rugby, or was it prior to that?
Well, I played till 97. Then in 1990, so end of 97, my first child was born. But in 1997 was the day that the Springboks beat Australia by 50 points. I had a motorbike accident on that day, and I broke my left leg and scraped everything up. And it was around the time where Princess Diana passed away. That August, it was August sometime, and so August. And so I didn't play in 98, but I went back in 99 and I played. I don't think I did a good job of that, because I went to practice in the week, and they said, great, welcome back, playing on the weekend. I said, that's fantastic. I had one practice, went and played on the weekend. On a Monday, I was at the doctor's office. I said, no, doc, I swear I broke a rib. He had a look and he said, no, it's just bruised intercostals. So it was bruised intercostals and a bruised ego. So I
thought
played
you were going
one year, and
I
then
thought you were
was-
going to say you went to the doctors to get a sick note to go, I can't play rugby. Like in school.
yeah, I thought about that. No, I really enjoyed the rugby, but at that stage, with work commitments and family commitments, and when I had my motorbike, and I even at that point just sold them. I sold the motorbike. I was like, I can't go ride on Sunday, spend all of Sunday out riding while my wife has to sit at home with the kids, and not just that, it's like you miss out on all the family stuff. So I thought, when they're a little bit bigger, then both of us could go out riding like we used to, and they'll be great. So 20 something years later, the kids are bigger, but I still don't have a motorbike. So,
that's interesting with the rugby, because I know Dan John talks about kind of armor building, doesn't he, and callousing the kind of body and just getting that kind of week in, week out playing rugby or any kind of contact sport. And then you see it a lot, don't you? Men try and go back to some of that stuff, because I played rugby through university, but if I tried to play a game of rugby now, I wouldn't be able to move for a month afterwards. It's just, you're just not used to getting it's all the things like getting your feet trod on, isn't it, with studs, and getting kicked and banged and leaned on and your head knocked about. So to try and go back to that, and especially like you say, when you run your own business and you've got a family and things, you can't just spend days on end laying on the sofa, can you, with your feet up recovering? So you can, but you wouldn't be very popular,
or successful. Well,
or successful,
So it's think about like snatching. When you first grab a kettlebell, when people first grab the kettlebell and they start swinging it or snatching the kettlebell, what's their complaint? My hands hurt, and it feels really funny with the kettlebell on my wrist. I love the saying by Pavel, your comfort is not my concern. Your safety is. So doing it the right way, even though it may feel uncomfortable, is still the best in order for safety. But if you got to build up the volume slowly, because it doesn't matter how strong you are, how big your muscles are, how strong your connective tissue is. If your hands are soft office workers, pen pushing hands, which most people's are, well, it's actually not pen pushing, it's thumb typing hands. Most people's hands are like that, because manual labor is not something that a lot of people do anymore. And you get onto that kettlebell and you can rip out 100 swings, and half the calluses on your hand gets ripped out at the same time, because you're just not used to it. So it's that building of just getting used to that contact. So in rugby, it was you got to build that up slowly. When you start using kettlebells, you got to build up the slowly. You got to figure out what's the weak link. And for most people, the weak link is the skin on their hands. But if you build it up slowly, there's no problems. It just takes time. So it's the same like when you get into a contact sport. When you start, you go back again. You can't go back where you were. You got to go back and build up that contact, build up that resilience to the contact, and then you're successful. And I think and this is just what I've noticed with my students and with myself, is as we age, it just takes a little bit longer. We can still do it. It just takes a little bit longer, and you've got a little bit less margin for error. So building up that resilience I didn't do that. I jumped in and thought I was like that Ferrari that you park in the car and you don't, sorry, in the garage, and you don't look at it for 20 years and you pull it out and you think you can still go at 180 miles an hour, and you don't.
It's one of those. It's one of those things that you don't. It's difficult to convey to a client because it's something that happens over a long period of time, isn't it? That kind of adaptation, that hardening of your body. I've noticed, because it's probably the longest I've ever stuck. So certainly as an adult, stuck to any sport using kettlebells, and doing kettlebell sport. I noticed that it's just that I've kind of assumed the shape that the kettlebell needed, and I kind of everything feels very comfortable with that tool. But if I cast my mind back, every single movement, every position I put it in, my hands, my thumbs, my forearms, my legs, my knees, my quads, everything felt tender and unconditioned to it. And it's something that clicks all of a sudden. Sometimes I have those moments where I go, actually, I feel very, to use a cliche, at one with this tool. And you see it with very, very conditioned, seasoned sports individuals. Yeah. Their body is just. I watched that program. Have you seen it on Netflix? It's a woman who swam from Cuba to Florida.
Oh, is that the film? Yeah. I've not seen it yet. Is it Naiad or Niad or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's insane that how hard her body was to the sea. How conditioned. I mean, I was looking at it and talking to my wife, saying that looks horrific. It looks the soul.
I think she was 60 as well, wasn't she, when she did it?
62.
She tried it a few times, didn't she?
5 times,
yeah. Oh. And just got stung in the face by jellyfish for hours. It's interesting, actually. It's interesting what you were saying, because I remember when I first started, the amount of videos I watched on YouTube for hand care, the amount of K-tape I bought, the amount of I never actually got any, but the people who then turn up with wristbands on and wrist guards and tape and hands and all of that, and it's what's the secret? And there you go. The secret is to just do it for years and do it consistently.
Just do it slowly. Just build it up slowly. And did you get moisturizer for your hands?
I got is it Sudocreme? Do you know that? That's somebody who was a rower said get Sudocreme, which is like nappy rash stuff.
So that's if you actually get blisters and abrasions and stuff, the Sudocremes, it's like magic, isn't it? You put it on at night before you get to bed, and you wake up the next day, and it's kind of it's gone. If you've got blisters and open wounds and stuff on your hands, it's great. Yeah,
but I feel we're not really selling kettlebells to the general population. But you're right in that when I was swimming, my coach said to me, for the 50-meter breaststroke, I needed to be 5 seconds faster to be competitive. And that 5 seconds over 50 meters, that was like, I couldn't even see it. And he said, just don't worry, just keep training. We just keep training. And one day did a time test, and I felt like I had gone really slowly. I felt very comfortable. I wasn't stressed or nervous or anything. And that 5 seconds was gone. That moment when everything just fits, everything just and that's what happens with kettlebells as well. You'll do it and you'll feel it doesn't feel quite right, and then one day you just everything just fits together, and it takes time for the body to adjust, and consistent training allows the time for the body to adjust.
Yeah, I had a great experience of that this week with one of my guys. He's 61, I think. He might even be 62 now, actually. And he's been a rower and all that sort of stuff, but he wasn't particularly, he couldn't stand on one leg, put it that way, and without falling over, which is very common. and we're starting him out.
After drink.
I don't know. I've never been out on the drink with him actually, but he started out with a 12, and we've gradually got him up. So he's been doing ladders with a 20 kilo bell on presses and double 20 squats and all of that sort of stuff. And then this week there was another guy who was there as well who was using a 24. So I said to him, "Let's just see how many times you can press the 24." He's pressed it once before ever.
Yeah.
Once on one arm, and he did 5 each arm, and he could have done more. And I was like, well, leave it there. This was at the end of the session as well.
Wow.
And then today, I've just been out with him doing a bunch of snatches and cleans and presses and squats, and just had him doing kind of like the deep 6, but he just built up ladders just with a 16 kettlebell. And I said, let's go up to like 7, and then we'll do a ladder to 5, and then we'll do a ladder to 3, and all this. And he found, and I was like, how was that? And he was like, it was a nice bit of movement and just throwing it around and stuff. And I was like, you started out with a bell lighter than that and you thought it was heavy. And now you're on way more. And that's only in a year as well. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you were talking about, like, you know, competitive swimming and all that. So you would have been a bit younger. This is a guy in his 60s. So it's achievable for everybody, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's achievable for everybody. I see most of my students here that in the gym that my wife and I run, they're all they're young like me in their 50s, you know, but then some are a little bit older, like my dad in the 70s, and then we've got some in their 80s as well. And it's amazing. You give them just a little bit of strength. We're not talking like anything to write home about. Just a little bit of strength, and suddenly everything is easier. Everything just becomes easier. And so maybe we're jumping right to the end, but the reason why I do this is to teach that strength makes a huge difference. And one of the strong first things is strength has a greater purpose. So when you can see somebody suddenly their whole life, they're able to, as you get older, when we're young, the world's like this. We could go anywhere we want. And as we get older, it gets smaller and smaller. And when you get really old and you go, if you've ever had a family member who's got old, and you know, their world ends up just being the room they're in, often because of the inability to move well. And that is about strength and about mobility and about maintaining and being consistent in it. And when they get a little bit of strength, suddenly the world goes from this size to this size. And the outlook on life is so much better. And that's why it's great. It's great to have somebody compete. Like this weekend, I've got one of my students in Australia. He's competing in a powerlifting meet, and I reckon he's going to do really, really well. And that's great. But he's 30 years old. You know, when on the other side, when you take somebody who's 70 and 80 and you give them a little bit of strength and changes their world, that's reward. That's why we do it.
I've just been listening to a podcast today, actually, which is a Dr. Chatterjee, who's like a kind of a doctor over here with a very popular podcast, and he's talking to a lady who works in I think she's at a university in Ireland, but she was fantastic. They're doing this massive longitudinal wrong word, sorry, can't pronounce it, study on aging, you know, and following people for decades and chasing up with them every 2 years and things. And what she was saying, and she's a medical doctor as well, but said that actual sort of longevity is 20, it's only actually 20% kind of genetic, and 80% you have, and it's epigenetics and things like that, but the way you live and the things that you do will affect the other 80%. So lots of people think, well, it's just, you're just lucky, you've got good genes or whatever, but that's only 20% of it. And she said that the biggest thing for people is in longevity is like relationships and community. And the next one, and then the next one is, diet and exercise, but also like attitude to life and outlook on life. So what you've just been saying there about how you can expand people's world, I suppose you can expand it physically, that they're able to get out and about and see more people and leave the room, but it also, by giving people the hope of strength, or seeing the hope of strength and what that can give them, it opens their kind of mental outlook and their attitude massively as well, doesn't it? And they can see so much more is capable, and or they're capable of so much more, and so much more is possible. So I think that's so profound, the way you just described that with people in their 70s and 80s, because I see it as well. I think it's huge.
I was listening to Andrew Huberman on a podcast, and he was talking about a similar thing, about doing things that you don't necessarily want, things that you want to do, but if you do them a little bit extra, that you might not want to do, like the last rep or something like that, as long as it's not a failure. He did actually say that as well, which was interesting. But he said, like, that there's a part of your brain that they've identified. I can't remember what it was called because I was only listening to it today, but it's this part of the brain that then grows, and it gives, or the synapses or whatever in it grow. And it's the will to live. It's actually the will to live. So it's exactly what James has just been talking about there, and what you were talking about, Shaun. And I find that brilliant, because I don't know. People can just look at it and go, "Oh, what difference does it make?" And and it's like, "Oh, I feel fine the way I am," and all that. And it's like, well, you can do, but also you can feel better. So I love it.
You take somebody and you show them how to squat properly. A full deep knee bend squat. And I've had so many people when I'd go down and they'll go, yeah, I can't do that. And then I coach them. And some people, it doesn't take long. Other people, a few sessions, and hey, and they get down there. And that thing of, I did something I thought I never could do. That going that extra bit. I'm going to stop now because I don't think I could do another one. And then somebody says, no, I'm with you. Let's go. We'll do it. We'll do it together. Let's push, go. And you do it and you think, I never thought I could do that. So when you show them something like a full squat, that they used to be able to do, but they haven't done in 20 years. And they now suddenly do it. It's like, wow. That it changes. It just, so, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? And not just in strength training, what else in life? What else have I said I can't do because I'm old?
Absolutely.
So
yes, brilliant. So Shaun, let's kind of rewind a little bit. So you got your 8, your 12, and your 16 kilo kettlebell in the post, and you got your VHS video, and you got your old book and things. I presume at that stage, back in, I think you said 2003.
Yes.
There's not, and you're in South Africa. It's before sort of YouTube is massive, and there's not coaches around the corner to you. Did you just read the book, watch the VHS, and start training?
Yeah, so then I got the 16 and it felt a little bit light. So then a week later I bought the 24 and 32. That was all you got in the beginning. Those were the real kettlebells in the beginning. And I started following along with the video and the book, and kind of, found my way through it. And I would watch the video, and my wife would watch the video with me, and then I would stop and I'd do it, and I'd say, "What does that look like?" She says, "Just like paddle." So that was really great for my ego. Then 2004, one of my mates, he was Springbok lock, rugby lock at the time, and he got injured, and I said, you should try kettlebells. And he said, you should learn a little bit more about kettlebells. So I said, okay. So I found Pavel Sassolin's course at the RKC at that stage, and I went over in, I think it was October, beginning of October, went over to Minnesota, and I realized that for a year, my wife had been lying to me. I did not look anything like Pavel. I did not swing like Pavel, snatch like Pavel, nothing. She lied to me for a full year, and shamelessly too.
She was just being nice, wasn't she? She didn't want to upset you. That's the thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I felt like I was doing it just like Pavel. I mean, I thought that, hey, I thought I was it. I wasn't. And I found out in the first half an hour, because back then we used to have to do our snatch test, which was slightly different to what to do now. We had to do it right in the very first thing we did. We introduced ourselves, and then we did our snatch test. And actually you spoke about Zar Horton. Zar was also on that. So we were in the same team. We went through the same certification. And both of us, as like, I think I was like rep 26. I had to do 37 snatches on the one side with one switch and 37 on the other side. Okay, and then you could put the bell down. And I think I was on like 26, and I put my arm up overhead, and yeah, there wasn't a kettlebell there. It was it had gone in front. So, and then that evening I got back to the hotel, and my wife was like, okay, she'd been in the hotel the whole day. She's like, okay, let's go have a look around. I'm like, no, I am not moving any more than I absolutely have to move. Well, it was more like, I'm not moving anymore because I really can't after the first day. And maybe those who've done the certs can understand this. It's a lot of work. It's grueling. It's a lot of work, and it really tests you. And it's good, because when you finish that weekend, you've done something that very few people have done, and you've done something that expands your idea of what's possible. Because if somebody told you what you were going to do and you'd get through all of that, you'd say, no, I think I'll die if I do all of that. And when you get to the other end, you find out that actually it's very difficult to kill somebody.
You've tried many times.
You can do a lot more. It's the things that we think, oh, that's going to kill us. Actually, you can do it. You just need to spend some time. So by the end of the weekend, I did get my snatch test. I did get everything. I did learn and felt great, and much better. Even better, because after that we flew to Las Vegas, and the first thing we did is we went and got a massage. So then my body felt much more relaxed, and muscles were feeling a bit better. But
you want to be careful getting massages in Vegas, by the way. You got to go to the right place.
I hear that. I hear that. My wife booked the massages. So yeah, very respectable place. So that's really, after that weekend was where I really understood how to train with kettlebells. Up to that point, I realized that my kettlebell was collecting more dust than it was swinging. And so that's I could say probably 2004 was where things really started moving along. And what I realized, or I mourned the fact that it took 33 years to get to that point. If I had known that stuff when I was 18, I could have been so much better at every sport I did. And I think James, there was a guy at the search in October. He was 18, 17.
Oh, yes, 17. Louis, I think Louis from Gemma's gym, the unit. Yeah, he was. I think he was. He may have even was he even 16? 16 or 17? He was very young. Yeah.
I mean, what a privilege to be able to get exposure to this type of training and the thinking that has gone into it at such a young age. Fabulous. But it was better late than never. And I realized that if I wanted to get better at this kettlebell stuff, I need to go and learn at least once a year. And that's where I went. Every year after that, I went back to Minnesota and went back to learn under Pavel. 2005 was the first Beast Tamer challenge. So went over.
Oh, did so prior to that, the Beast Tamer didn't exist? It wasn't a thing at all?
No. So they've at that stage you just had the 8, 12, 16, 24 and 32 kilo kettlebells. And then Dragon Ball brought out a 40 kilo, which was called the Bulldog. And then not so long after that, they brought out the 48 kilo. So that 48 kilo, I think it was brought out in about July of 2005, somewhere around there. And I just remember I was 4 weeks out before we were leaving. My wife was going to do her certification, and I volunteered to assist at the cert. And I was luckily enough, they accepted my assistance, and I was able to go and learn some more. So I just remember Dragon Door had this magazine. They brought out this magazine, and it had this little advert with Mark Mahler and talking about pressing, doing the Beast Tamer challenge, which is a press. You press the 48, you do a pull up with the 48, and you do a pistol, one leg squat with the 48. And I was kind of like looking for some sort of challenge, and I thought, well, that would be great. I remember that was a Sunday, exactly 4 weeks before we were leaving, and I said to my wife, "That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this Beast Tamer challenge." She says, "Can you pistol?" "No, I can't." "But I'll do it." And so I taught myself how to do the pistol. 32 kilo kettlebell was the heaviest kettlebell I had. I ordered my 40s and my 48s, but they only arrived in the December, I think, of 2005. So this was September. We went, I think it was beginning of October, that was the search. So this was September. So I didn't have those weights. So I worked up, and we got there and we did the setup. So if you assist, you set up the night before on the Thursday, and everybody gets tested. All the assistants get all their skills tested. So I tested all our skills, and we unboxed the 48, and I pressed it, and I was like, okay, that's all right. And it was on the Friday, they said, okay, who's doing the Beast Tamer challenge? So I went up and was able to do the Beast Tamer challenge. And then nowadays, I don't know, we're actually quite kind. We let guys like warm up, and you know. Then it was just, okay, who's doing okay, I'm doing the Beast Tamer challenge. Okay, what do you want to do first? Yeah, I'll do the press. All right, there's the bell, press. Clean, press. Okay, good. All right, everybody else, what else you going to do? And so on. So yeah, there was no warm-ups or anything like that.
So prior to that, Shaun, had you pressed a 48 before? Had you ever held a 48 kilo kettlebell? I mean, because
the night before I did my cert. that was the first time when we unboxed that 48. That was the first time. That was the first time most of us had seen it. Yeah, like, I mean, they were rare. They had just been released, so they were really rare. And yeah, pulled that out, man, and we tried to play around with it, and yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I hadn't played with a 48, so that was the first time. Yeah, I was successful in doing it. I think I'm still the heaviest person to have done it. I did it at 116 kilos.
So you did a pull up with you were 116 kilos with the 48 kilo bell kind of wrapped around the waist as well, yeah?
Yeah, so 164 kilos or yeah. Pull up. Yeah.
And how did the pistol go then? Because you didn't even know you could do one until a few weeks beforehand. I mean, and you've done it with a 32, but you just went for it and it just happened, did it, with the 48?
Well, yeah, so I practiced my pistol, and I had a useful but useless piece of equipment called a Smith machine. And it was useful because I was able to use it to lower the bar, and I would do partial pistols to the bar.
Ah, okay.
So it was nice and stable. That was the only thing I used the Smith machine for at that stage. And so before I did the pistol for the Beast Tamer, I'd done one pistol before. So we left South Africa on the Sunday evening, and that morning I grabbed the 32 and I did one pistol on each leg with the 32, and then I was happy. But what I was doing for strength, I was doing deadlifts to strengthen the hips and everything. So the second pistol I did was at the Beast Tamer challenge with the 48. Yeah. So yeah, back then,
were you the only one were you the only one who went for it that first time, or were you the only one? Did multiple people go for it and you were the first one to pass it, or what happened that weekend?
There were three of us who went for it, and I was the only one who passed it. The other two got 2 of the 3, but they each had one of them that missed. Subsequent to that, Brett Jones was the one. And he got his Beast Tamer after that. But yeah, back then I got my Beast Tamer 2005, and I think the next person who got their Beast Tamer was almost a year later. Not that, I mean, people have tried, but and even now there's only I think just over 100 or so people.
I mean, it's a huge thing still, isn't it? I mean, it is a real, and like one of the things you mentioned quite near the start was you want to have I suppose a competitive purpose to your strength. You don't just want, you want to have some competitive outlet or some challenge kind of outlet for it, not just training for the sake of training, but focusing the mind on something. And I think something like the Beast Tamer, or they do the Iron Maiden now for that. At the time, I suppose they didn't have the Iron Maiden for the women, did they? No, because that's doing the same things but with a 24, isn't it? So that was something that was introduced later on. But having that outlet, I mean, it's still a massive, like you say, if you think of all the people in the world who've tried it and still only, if I'm not sure, but around 100 or whatever people 20 years later nearly have done it. It's a huge challenge still, and a real kind of rite of passage, isn't it?
It is, because yeah, if you're big and you're heavy like me, the press is not too difficult. If you're tall, the pistol becomes a long way to go down and to come back up. If you're heavy though, the pull-up becomes tough. But if you're light, the pull-up is easy, but the press becomes difficult. So it's a good balance of strength and showing your strength. But even coming back, we got the Beast Tamer challenge and the Iron Maiden challenge for the ladies, and we've got the simple and sinister. Sorry, I apologize. Get out.
Just to explain, there's a couple of dogs.
There was a tail wagging around.
Come into the room, and Shaun's just gone and shooed them out of the room, I think, and shut the door because.
Yeah, two Great Danes. So
two Great Danes. Wow. Okay.
So we've got the Beast Tamer challenge, and we've got the simple and sinister, which is swings and get-ups. Well, the sinister challenge for ladies and for gents. The sinister is 100 swings in 5 minutes, one-arm swings in 5 minutes with 1 minute break, and 10 get-ups, 5 on each side. With the 48 for the gents, and for the ladies, it's swings with the 32 and get-ups with the 24. So we've got those challenges that are there, but the very first challenge is actually so many people who are not instructors that come to the SFG 1 certification, because it's a challenge to be able to complete all 6 of the moves to standard and to do the snatch test, and it's so many. It's just a personal challenge for them to achieve, and for a lot of people, that's a really good, just working towards that type of goal gives you an outlet and a purpose for why you're training. Yeah. So
and I think as well with the all the certifications, obviously, that they have now at Strong First, with the SFL and the SFB and the SFG2, and then when people can become elite and they have to redo all those, some of those tests all over one weekend. I mean, that's when you really have to, because you have to have everything dialed in, don't you? The body weight stuff, the barbell stuff, the kettlebell stuff, still the snatch test. So that's quite a kind of, spinning plates and keeping everything up to a standard, which is, that's a unique challenge in itself as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just great to be a part of taking people through the learning and seeing how they grow over the weekend. Guys who are actually they've trained 6 to 9 months for this weekend, and you see them go from Friday to Sunday. The volume of work that is put in there is just really a condensed experience of and condensed growth that happens. So that's great to see. Well-trained people, well-prepared people, and they still bump everything up to the next level. So that keeps me going, seeing how people do that. And
it's always great to have like fresh eyes on you, isn't it? It's like when you went to do the first RKC, you were doing it at home and you thought you were doing it, right or perfectly or whatever. But when you have fresh eyes on you, and still whenever I go to any I've been involved with kind of initially like the RKC and then Strong First since about 2010. Every time I do anything, I get picked up and get corrected and because you do, like you said, you went to the certs every year, and you make sure, because you a little bad habit comes in here or there, and you modify something and you're doing it on your own, you don't really realize, and then it just gets tweaked and tightened up again, and you can feel it straight away, can't you, when someone corrects you on some of these things you don't really see yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. We as a human being, we try to become efficient, So one of the big problems is you see people come and you look and you go, you've done low swings. They go, yeah, I've done low swings. You go, yeah, I can see, because you've now started becoming efficient, and your swings are no longer effective swings. We're not looking in strong first. We're not looking for efficiency. We're looking for effectiveness. So we want our training to be effective, so that life and our sport and other things, we can be efficient in doing those things, but our training needs to be effective. So that's one of the things that I pick up a lot with the assistants, is when they come back, is to change it. Okay, so you used to have effective swings, now you've got efficient swings. And often, they say, yeah, it's I've kind of got to a plateau and I can't get further than this in terms, it's like, yeah, because you're not generating enough power anymore in your swing, and you need to go back. And as soon as you go back to effective swings, things start moving again. So it's good to have those eyes on you, to get improvements all the time, because we're always improving. It's also quite humbling, to make yourself vulnerable for other people to give you feedback in something that you think you're pretty good at doing. Like, especially because my wife thought I was very good at doing it, and I wasn't.
Yeah, I'm at the SFL in 2 weeks' time with Fabio.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, so that's going to be great, and that's always always getting picked up on things and improved, and need to get better at that. I was just going to ask Shaun, I'm just aware of time and stuff. What's life like for you now? You mentioned have you got a gym yourself with your wife in South Africa that you run? Is that like a public gym? Is that somewhere or is that more like a personal training and small group training type setup? What's the kind of, what do you do now, in terms of training other people yourself?
Okay, so I live in a little town outside of Cape Town called Somerset West. So we've got the backdrop is the Hottentots Holland mountain range, and then we look over the bay, False Bay, on the tip of Africa. So that's where I am, and we have a studio at home. We've got about 170 square meters of space, where my wife and we do one-on-one coaching from here, and so that's our base. And then I travel quite a bit to teach. So you mentioned, I saw you last month, a month ago, in Birmingham, Lilleshall, teaching the SFG 1. Next weekend I'll be teaching SFL in Brisbane. So yeah, I get around quite a bit. So I look after South Africa, Middle East, India, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore. Those are my territories that I need to look after and grow and teach in, and help people, just make stronger people all around.
So how many weekends would you say out of sort of say 50 weekends of a year or whatever? How many weekends are you away traveling, doing certifications and workshops? And I know you go over to America, and you're part of obviously the leadership team and stuff like that. So I mean, are you traveling like a couple of weekends a month, or is it, are you away a lot?
So probably do 2019 I was away for 4 months of the year. So and those were like a weekend or 2 weeks and back again. This since then hasn't been as much, but I'd say probably about 16 weekends at the moment that I teach elsewhere. So I've got 3 more weekends left to go for this year, and then a start in January next year. So January, and then March in India, and Singapore in March. So yeah, everything it's ticks over.
And just as we wrap up, Shaun, can I just ask now? You're about 53? Are you something like that?
Yeah, I'm 50. I'm 53 years young.
53 years young. So I just wanted to ask, what does your we've had Fabio on, we've had Brett Jones on, and we talked to them. What's training, I mean, like for you now? I mean, how has training changed? What's your focus with your training now, considering how much you travel, you know, and how much your kind of routine is kind of disrupted through travel and things like that? What's your kind of focus, and what do you focus on yourself with your own training nowadays?
So one of my longest term goals, Peter and I share it, is to do the Beast Tamer again. Okay. So yeah. So I want to do the Beast Tamer again at some stage. I have limitations since I did it last. I've had a hip operation with a torn labrum. So yeah, you put a little bit of mileage on the body. And the press is not a problem. I pressed last year. I pressed the Beast 7 times in a row. So you know, the press is not the problem. The problem is the pull up, and I just don't do enough pull ups. So that's my goal, is to not only be the first Beast Tamer the first, but I want to also be the oldest at some stage.
So you could be the first, you could be the first, the heaviest, and the oldest,
and then then later on the oldest.
Yeah,
you like a bit of competition. I'm 47 next week, so I'll be 50 in 3 years. And I remember you saying at the certification that I was an assistant, that you wanted to be the first person to do it over 50. Is that right?
Yes.
I'll race you.
Okay. So
I'm considerably smaller than you.
Yeah, but if I remember, you're also a little bit shorter than me, so you don't have that far to go to get down for the pistol.
That's true. However, the pull-up is proving a bit of a challenge at the minute.
Yeah.
I've also set myself, actually, with my coach is Paul McElroy, and I said to him, so I'm 47 in 2 weeks, so I'm obviously 48 in a year's time. And I was like, if I can get the Beast Tamer at 48, because it's a 48 kilo bell, why not?
Yeah.
And I was like, if I can do that and maintain it, if I can do it with a 50 at 50, that'd be brilliant. So what you were saying about things that you're not sure you're capable of and all of that, those are my goals for the minute. I've set them, and I'm like, let's go for it and see what happens. Just keep training. It's brilliant.
Well, I did say back in 2019 that I want to do it when I'm 50 or over 50, and I had a few setbacks in terms of training for it, so that's kind of still one of the goals. Right at the moment, my training is really more around Brett Jones's new iron cardio. So just doing, just working with that, clean press, squat, and then Pavel just brought out a new book called Kettlebell X that is strength endurance. So I did my first one today of that, and it felt good. So at the moment, I'm just, because I'm going to be traveling, and there's so much traveling happening now. These are the types of things I can do, and when I get into wherever I'm going, it's quite easy to just grab a bell, and you can get through it quite quickly. The rest of the year, I did a lot of barbell work, and really pushed on the barbell stuff. And I enjoy the bench. But when you go to another gym, the bench is just slightly lower or slightly higher. The rack is just just slightly in between what your one is at home. Everything's just a little bit different. And so there's so many more variables. The kettlebell, there's not that many variables. So it's quite easy just to pick up and train with the kettlebell. With the barbell, especially like something like bench press and that, there's so many variables that you're going to watch for, and that can put you off a little bit when you're going heavy. So now I'm just sticking with this, and I'll probably stick to just kettlebells until end of December, and then come mid-January or so, I'll start probably a Build Strong, working with Build Strong program, and start working. Because one of the things as you get older, you need to not only maintain strength, also maintain muscle mass. And that's where Dan John's talking about the armor building. Is you've got to maintain your armor as we get older. Otherwise, we just become thin, fat people and weak. So you got to keep going. So, all right, challenge on, Peter. 3 years, huh?
3 years.
It's great because we had a guy on last week, Will Polston, talking about he's got a book called North Star Thinking, and it's kind of about setting your course, in life and what you're aiming for. And he talks about what you're aiming for. It doesn't even matter if you get there or not. The fact that you're striving for this thing. So whether that be, like Pete said, the 50 kilos Beast Tamer when he's 50, if he's aiming there, even if he doesn't quite get there, he's going to be so much further along than he is now, and so much better than most other people at 50 years of age. So it's just kind of setting that course. And that's why actually I'm really inspired there, Shaun, from you, laying out your goals, and the fact that, because I kind of didn't know what you were going to say when I asked that, but the fact that, you've got this, well, actually I want to do a Beast Tamer again. That's just, that's setting you on that course for great things. And it's like the reason behind setting goals isn't necessarily the hitting the goal. It's the person you become on that journey towards it, isn't it? So I think always striving for something in the future is it's like we said, isn't it? It's like we talked about with the longevity, having that attitude of life's worth living, and there's still stuff to look forward to, and I'm still moving in the right direction. I'm not sitting on my rocking chair and starting to fade into the distance. We want to keep being strong and fit and healthy and resilient and mobile and all the rest of it into our 60s, 70s, 80s, like some of the guys you talked about.
Yeah, well, a little story on looking forward. In 2010, the Soccer World Cup was in South Africa. I don't know if you remember, Football World Cup. And in order to get a ticket, you had to put your name in to like a lottery, and they would pull out because there was only so many tickets available. And my grandfather put his name into the lottery for 2010. He was, in 2009, he was 89 years old. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2009. And in 2000, and we didn't know what he had done. In 2010, they were looking for him because he could buy a ticket now. Even at 88, 89 years old, he was looking and like, no, I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go to the World Cup. How many people in their 80s are going to go and watch live World Cup and see their way clear to doing that? You always have to have those things that keep you young and keep you focused. And what you said is so true, is it's what you find out on the way to achieving that you learn so much about yourself, and not only in what you can physically do, and when we're going for like the Beast Tamer challenge, but also mentally, and what you can overcome in the process. And what you said, about a goal, it's not necessarily achieving the goal, it's about how you learn from it. And so, always have a plan, because the plan just tells you how far you've deviated from where you were going. Sometimes some people take the quick route and some people take the scenic route. And Peter, I think I'm on the scenic route at the moment.
That's fine. I've got to take the quick route, haven't
I? Do me.
Yeah, you see, Peter, I know I did it before, and I know I can do it. You still have to figure out whether you can do it or not.
I can do a third of it. I can do the pistol.
Well, like my mom used to say, a miss is as good as a mile.
Yeah. You've just reminded me of something as well. That story about your granddad's great, by the way. I love that. But I always find it funny when people say, "Oh, I'm so old now, I don't even buy green bananas." Have you ever heard that? That's it.
Yeah. Hey, you got to keep striving for new things. Got to keep putting out goals there. And it's not that one changes, or no, it's not that one doesn't it's not that one's fickle about your goals. You can set goals, but you can also change them. You can start out heading in that direction and realize that is not where you really want to go. And maybe it's just off to the right of that. Or as you learn and go, you explore and you find new things that you want to do. And so, but just by setting a goal, you may not achieve the goal, you may achieve other goal, or you may have to change a goal along the way, but at least you have a goal, and at least you're going in some direction. If you don't have the goal, you're never going to find out that actually you want to do this other little thing, like Megan Kelly with her Guinness World Record swings. She had other goals before, and those goals led her to realize that actually this is something she could probably do, and then set out to do it. So along the way to achieving the goal, we may be distracted with some other goals, and that can be more important as well. So, but having the goal at least gets you going in that direction.
No, that's fantastic, Shaun. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, that's always we come onto these podcasts, and I kind of obviously knew that we were talking to you, but we always end up, going in a slightly different route or talking about different things than initially you may think. But it's always kind of a rich and enlightening, kind of enjoyable conversation. So thank you so much for making the time to speak to us. It's been absolutely fantastic. Pete, anything you'd like to say just as we wrap up? Maybe just about the beast.
No, I haven't. Do you know what? I haven't got anything about that. I've just been reminded the certification I assisted at when Shaun was there. I got given that, which is a little kettlebell.
Yeah.
By one of the guys, and it was a guy called, I think he was called Rugby. And he was a Polish guy. And I saw I think it was on Facebook a couple of years ago, Attila shared something, and it's a bit, sorry to say this at the end of the thing, but but he sadly passed away. And I don't know how or why, just Attila had posted something, and he was a Krav Maga guy and all of that. But I remember him really well, and he gave me that at the end of the certification. He said, "Oh, thank you." He was giving these to people and saying, "Oh, thank you for being here and thank you for your help and all of that sort of stuff." And he gave it to us, and I've had it on my keyring ever since, and I've just been reminded of it now. So if anyone's listening who knew him or who met him or whatever, he was a lovely bloke, and he gave me that. So yeah. So there you go. Little shout out to Robbie there.
These certifications that you do tend to, and you do them all the time, obviously, Shaun, but you do kind of, for certainly the participants who go on them and the candidates who go on them, but also assisting and everything else, you really do meet and make friends that you kind of can become lifelong friends, and people from all over the world that you kind of are then connected with through that shared kind of experience, don't you? Which is really fantastic. Yeah. It's part of the reason why I love doing them, because you always meet up with people again, and it's like a big global community, isn't it? Which is great.
You obviously never thought there were nice people in South Africa because you watch too much of South African rugby. Now you found out that there are some nice people in South Africa.
That's a Monty Python song, isn't it?
It is. It was Spitting Image.
Oh,
it was Spitting Image.
Have you heard of that, Shaun? I think it's I've never met a South African.
They had a song called "I've Never Met a Nice South African."
Well, now you can say you have.
Yeah, we have certainly. Paul, anything you'd like to say as we wrap up?
My client's South African.
Okay.
And I live in Southfields, which is short for South Africa Fields.
Okay.
And so, and my wife works for a South African. She works for 2 South Africans. So, yeah. I like South Africans. They're great.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, and none of them are nice.
Deary me.
It's the people who base it all on Lethal Weapon 2, isn't it? It's like, they're not all like that.
Commando.
No, there was a stage in Hollywood for a while that all the bad guys were South Africans.
Yeah, they're all British now, aren't they?
Yeah. Deary me. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shaun. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will be back next week for episode 171. We're actually talking about goals and striving for goals and not always reaching them. We're catching up next week with Chris Branch, who we spoke about, who went for his 100-mile run and had to pull out at a certain midway-ish. And he's now completed. We may just be giving a big spoiler away, but recently he did the 100-mile run, and we spoke about it a few weeks ago. He did it on a 400-meter running track in less than 24 hours, 100 miles just running around this running track. But we're going to be talking to Chris next time, and he's an example of someone obviously who set this goal, set this North Star, and had quite a few setbacks, didn't get it, but persisted, and now he's done it, and he's going to come on and talk to us about that experience, which will be fantastic. But thank you, Peter, for today. Thank you, Paul, for today. And thank you so much, Shaun, for today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. And please do. In fact, I did forget, Shaun, you're not really a social media kind of person, are you? You're not after followers and things, are you? Or if people want to find out about Strong First South Africa, but you're not really on there personally, are you very much?
I do. I'm on Facebook.
Yep.
Okay. So you can find me. You can find me on Facebook, where all the OGs are.
Yeah.
And but we do have Strong First South Africa Instagram, and Strong First Australia, New Zealand, Strong First India, Strong First Middle East. So yeah.
All of those. So if you're in any of those territories and you're interested in Strong First, then Shaun runs all of those territories, and you can find them all on Instagram. And like you say, I'm friends with Shaun on Facebook as well. He's on Facebook as himself, just as Shaun Cairns, and Instagram for all the Strong First stuff. Brilliant. So yeah, please do. Anyway, as I was saying, I just remembered myself there that I hadn't got Shaun's kind of social media stuff. But yeah, we are trying to increase our YouTube following so we can do more stuff on there. So please give us a subscribe on YouTube as well. And do go and check out Peter Lant's hard work on healthoddity.com, where you can find every single episode in audio and video. We will see you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favourite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.